But of course, what's most supreme and what's most central to what we're talking about throughout this week's lesson is what it says about the individual. It says, quote, "The preciousness and dignity of the individual person is a central humanist value." Now, in terms of Christianity, there is this recognition of the preciousness and the dignity of every single person. But in terms of humanism, that has a very different meaning. We base that based upon the fact that God has made all people. We base that upon the fact that we're made in His image. We base that upon the fact that, therefore, life is all sacred. But the individualism of the Humanist Manifesto takes a distinctive bent. In fact, it says that it demands certain rights, specifically, quote, "the right to birth control, abortion, and divorce." In other words, these rather destructive ideas, especially these ideas that will release sexual expression. In fact, we're going to talk about the sexual revolution this week. And this whole idea that there is found man's great identity and that all things are okay so long as it's between consenting adults. And that's actually specific language from the Humanist Manifesto. It's as if they looked into our own culture and could exactly predict where many of us would wind up. In terms of democracy, it recognized that because the individual was supreme, he must have access to rights such as freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of religion, the right to protest or assembly, fair judicial process, but also the individual's right to die with dignity, which meant euthanasia, death when you're old, death when you're no longer able to live life as you once were, and of course, the right to suicide. These are the actual words of the Humanist Manifesto. It equated ultimately freedom with the right to choose when you die. It's the natural outworking of everything we've talked about this year in terms of evolution. When you start with atheism, with the idea that God is dead, it has a natural progression to the death of man himself.